right, so we're moving on to the second part of this unit to talk about the linkage institutions of interest groups and the media. So we know after our civil liberties unit that Americans have the right to organize and petition the government for change, and that's one of those First Amendment protections. So we're talking specifically about interest groups. Make sure that you know that interest groups and political parties, they are not the same thing. Interest groups are organizations of people who come together to advance a common cause. So, in exercising those rights to organize and petition, that's going to create what James Madison described in that Federalist number 10. So, we're going all the way back to the beginning of the year as a faction. So, James Madison defined faction in Federalist 10 as a number of citizens, whether amounting to the majority or the minority of the whole, who are united and actuated by some common impulse or passion. So, there are lots of different types of interest groups that include groups about economics, group welfare, professional membership, single issues, areas of public concern. So tons and tons of different types of interest groups, and we'll get into that in our next lesson. But Madison believed that factions could be dangerous because they could trample on the rights of others. However, the freedoms that are protected by the Constitution almost guarantee that factions will form. So in Federalist 10, remember that Madison is going to address that concern that factions are dangerous and inevitable, but he argues that in a large republic, multiple factions would compete and ensure that none would be too dominant. So the challenge isn't really eliminating, those groups or those factions, but making sure that no one faction does too much damage or holds too much power. Those competing factions are going to be less of a danger to the nation as a whole. All right, so if you remember back in the Constitution unit, we talked about some theories of democracy, which are going to play into these theories of interest group formation. So there is this theory of participatory democracy, which is the belief that citizens impact policy making through their involvement in a civil society, so groups outside the government that advocate for policy. And the theory behind participatory democracy is that even though one person can't really make a difference, groups with a common interest can. Okay, so this idea that people together in a group can make a difference in society. Then there is pluralist theory, which is the theory that political power is distributed among many competing groups, which means that no single group can grow too powerful. Okay, so this is that idea that Madison was hinting on in Federalist 10. So when he talks about how no one faction is going to be able to come too powerful because the republic is so large, this is this pluralist theory. So no single group can become too powerful because power is distributed among competing groups. So groups lacking one resource may have another, which enables them to compete in the political process. So maybe they don't have a whole lot of money, but they have other resources, so they can still be part of that process. And then the last of those theories was that elitist theory. So a theory that the wealthy elite class have a disproportionate amount of economic and political power, holding top positions in government and industry. So the theory here is that elites are going to control the policy agenda, okay, which is those set of issues that policymakers are paying attention to. The argument here is also that the wealthy are going to have more access to policymakers than the average citizen. So members of Congress, they have a really limited time. Okay, they're very busy individuals. So they're going to be more likely to spend time with lobbyists and corporate donors that could potentially benefit them when it comes to campaigning re-election. Okay, so therefore, those wealthy and members of the elite class are going to have more access to policymakers than the average individual. All right, so some of the challenges facing interest groups. So differences in size, wealth, and political power are going to shape the strategies of interest groups as they try to overcome the challenges of collective action. Okay, so differences in size, how much money an interest group has, how much political power interest groups have. Those are all some of the challenges that those organizations are going to face as part of that collective action. So collective action is defined as political action that occurs when individuals contribute their energy, time, or money to a larger group goal. Now, some interest groups are going to work for a collective good. So, for example, a public benefit like a strong defense, clean air, or a nice fireworks display. So, collective good is a public benefit that individuals can enjoy or profit from, even if they do not help to achieve it. So, sometimes collective good is also defined as public good. So, that's what some interest groups, as part of this collective action, they're working toward this collective good. Now, another challenge that interest groups face are free riders. So this is the problem with collective good, okay? People can enjoy the benefits of an interest group without actually contributing to it, okay? So free riders, you get the benefits of the interest group without actually contributing or being part of that interest group. So the free rider problem, for example, really happens in states with right to work laws. So this is a good example. So this is where employees of unionized companies, they have the right not to join the union. So the company that this person is employed by has a union, but they don't have to join the union. So if a union is negotiating higher salaries and better benefits for employees, all of those companies employ even those who don't actually pay union dues, who are not forced to join a union. So those are free riders, and these can be, again, a challenge to interest groups. So one tactic to overcome this free rider problem is for interest groups to offer selective benefits. So these are just those benefits that are only going to be available to those who join the group. So in this case, it would have been for those employees who join the union. So these are things like discounts on goods and services, access to group publications, and other special offers. Okay, so for example, AARP, which is the American Association of Retired Persons, it offers a lot of travel benefits and discounts for its members. Professional associations might provide members with credentials that they need to operate in their profession. Okay, so trade unions might work to help members earn higher wages and benefits. So these are selective benefits that are going to try to overcome that free rider problem of people not wanting to join that group. All right, and that's where we're going to stop with this video.